We're back with breaking news and update in the case against Vincent McClean. Let's head right over to Angelique Aaron, talk with the very latest. Angelique.
Lawyers in the case, we knew there wasn't sufficient evidence. We knew for a fact there was not probable cause in this case because both of their experts were of the opinion that the cause of death was the huffing, which related to her.
And we are hearing from the attorneys in this case, so listen closely to what is going on right now.
Because it was a tragedy. She had an addiction, and it led to her death, and unfortunately, it led to the death of the unborn baby as well. But addiction is something that's real in this world, but do not pass blame on police. You know, when police are out there doing their jobs and doing them in a very honorable way, we should respect and appreciate that, and that didn't happen in this case.
Mm-hmm. You could kind of tell when he was addressing your motion to strike, he was teeing this up because he said, she did not look distressed to me in that video.
Because she was not. You know, and one of the best pieces of evidence that they put on for us was that video of her in the back seat because she's just sitting up. She did throw up, but you know, police officers deal with people throwing up all the time. You don't take everybody to the emergency room because they're vomiting. She showed no other signs of distress in any way, and then when they got to the police department, when the door opened, she just stood up and got out of the police car. That's not a person in distress.
Mr. McClean, how does this ruling feel, especially on the heels of the 2023 decision by the jury in a separate case?
Well, it's a great moment. You know, over a year and a couple of months, this thing has disrupted my life and put my family in a tailspin financially. Did lots of nights crying because of this incident, and it was all because I did my job. I did my job to the best of my ability. Unfortunately, you know, a life was lost, but it was only me doing my job.
Do you have any message today for the Van Gilders?
I'm sorry about what happened, but as I said, I was just doing my job.
What do you think about the timing of this indictment on the day that you were acquitted of a previous indictment?
That's questionable. We had some very difficulty with the fact that they would indict him in the middle of the first trial. And remember, the jury in the first trial was only out 14 minutes. And then we get to this trial, which evidence the facts are almost identical, and the judge strikes the case at its most, you know, all they had to do is show a prima facie case, and they couldn't even do that. And so what we're going to do, his legal team, is that we're going to look for some level of vindication for him in a civil lawsuit. We've already prepared the lawsuit. We plan to file it by week's end for malicious prosecution for both cases. So we're going to file multi-million-dollar lawsuits on his and his family's behalf on each of these cases because there was absolutely not probable cause. All one had to do was to read the opinions of the experts who clearly indicated what her cause of death was. And we did ask them, particularly on the stand, was there any intervening cause of her death? Anything. And their expert, as you heard, Dr. Arden and Dr. Gunther indicated that there was not. So how can you charge someone with killing another person when both of your experts clearly give you a cause of death that is in no way associated with the actions of a police officer?
Mr. Massey, that's multiple lawsuits, you said?
Two.
Two?
One for each prosecution.
In opening statements, first of all, Ms. Butt's opening statement was very brief. And in your opening statement, you were basically using their exhibits to explain how this was not a case of voluntary or involuntary manslaughter.
Yes, because as I stated before, you know, we were ready for the facts in the case, and we knew that they did not have sufficient facts to support the indictments. It was just really questionable for all of the lawyers. We were sitting just talking and like, who made this decision to indict him, and who could have made this decision after reading those expert reports? It's just not possible because that's where you lose the probable cause, because you have to prove that the actions of the defendant killed the person. But both of their experts say that she died as a result of the huffing and her heart failure. So how did he kill her? How do we get past the first prong of the indictments and the elements of the offense? We can't. There's no way, no reason he should have been charged.
All right, 1 second, right here. Sam, on me. Hey, Real quick, I just wanted to recap what attorneys mentioned just moments ago. You heard there a judge, a retired judge from Virginia Beach who presided over this case, chose to dismiss that one felony count of voluntary manslaughter for Vincent McClean. McClean is a former police officer who served in 2018. He was accused of voluntary manslaughter in connection with the death of Carmita Van Gilder, an in-custody death of Carmita Van Gilder. But like I mentioned earlier, a judge found no sufficient evidence in this case of voluntary manslaughter, of an intentional killing. Therefore, he took it out of the hands of the jury and decided to basically throw out this case, that one felony count, and almost preemptively already ruled that this would not apply for involuntary manslaughter. We'll have much more about this report starting on 13 News Now at 4. Reporting live in Portsmouth, Angelique Aaron Talk, 13 News Now.
Okay, Angelique, thanks. And as you said, you just heard from the attorney of Vincent McClean, McClean himself, after a judge threw out that voluntary manslaughter case against that former officer. The attorney says that they plan to file multiple lawsuits, civil lawsuits for malicious prosecution. So we'll have more from Angelique, I'm sure, throughout the day on that. Let's turn things